Well, good morning. It is just before complete sunup here at the cottage. I'm out very early this morning because I'm giving a talk to Cleveland County Master Gardeners in Norman this morning. And I've got to be there around 9, so I'm out here shooting this for you early, or at least the backyard. And let's see what progress has been made. So they've completed more of the brick facing on the steps. And let me see if I can kind of work my way down these steps and show you what they look like from the opposite direction, because it truly is magnificent, if I do say so myself. Now, once all of the brickwork is done, and I anticipate that'll be in another couple of days, they will seal the steps and they'll be pretty much finished. And then the surrounding area will be able to finish laying my mulch and gravel blend. And then the table over here, the potting table, will move, and I'll be able to finally, I think, position the various plants in their ultimate destination. I think this coming week I'll get the raised beds filled with a really good mix. And one of you recommended that I might want to consider putting larger casters on my raised beds to help them with be a little bit more mobile and easier to roll around once they are filled with soil, because obviously they'll be quite heavy, though I won't fill them up to the brim with soil. I'll definitely put some kind of lightweight filler in there, probably garden debris, at least a quarter full. And then I'll put in my mix with some really good fertilizer. And then I've got Phoebe, darling Phoebe, while I'm doing this, she's starting some seeds for me of some fall vegetables that then I can just kind of pluck into place once it gets cooler. I do love the way the great room looks from outside looking in, and I think it'll be even more beautiful when all of this is complete. Can you imagine just where the steps end rather abruptly? A gorgeous Japanese maple there, tall enough and thinned out enough so that it just arches over the window. And that's what I can see in my head. And then ultimately, may not happen till next year, but an awning over the back door. And then those gorgeous steps staged with topiary running up and down their flanks. And something vertical in a pot just right to the right of the door. These are things that I've showed you before, but I think now at least I can visualize them to a greater extent. I think I need to clean my glass table. What do you think? And I'll be happy just to get a more accurate scale for what the garden will look like and where my negative spaces will be once things like those big batches of Happy Grow landscaper mix are removed. The firewood is back in its place, and I have my plant stands zhuzhed out and happy and healthy again. I'll start feeding them pretty soon so that by the time the back is finished, those will be in bloom to celebrate its completion. Over here, I've begun to assemble my plants for the mounds that will be the villages, the rounded mounded villages that will be in varying locations surrounding the brick rug. I envision probably 3 mounds, and some things that I've pretty much decided on are these gorgeous blue star junipers, and I will give you a link to them. But they are tough, and they've got that beautiful blue-green that I think will be very effective out here. And then I probably can't resist having some boxwood mounds. These were all inspired by the pictures that I showed you in Sunday's video. If you haven't seen it, you might go back and watch it. And by the way, this reminds me that this morning we have resumed the newsletter. So if you are not signed up, go to www.lindavotter.com and definitely subscribe, because there's additional content that I don't share here or on Instagram. But also, if you've missed any of the links, if you want some behind the scenes pictures, and it's just a little bit more intimate. So also in those green mounded plants, I am hoping in the little villages that one of the residents will be the sweet olives that I've got in pots back here. And I'm going to see if I can get them to overwinter by really protecting them, nestling them in the center of the village, and also mulching them. So here is, in the foreground over here, you see 2 olive trees. Let me work my way over here. You see this olive tree right here in the smaller pot in the foreground. I have not yet cut it back, and it needs trimming even if I weren't trying to transform it into a mound form. And then over here is one that I have already pruned back. I could probably prune on it a little bit harder. And it will really thicken up and put out all sorts of new foliage that will have more than enough time to temper before the cold weather hits. And then I might have some just fluffy perennial components. This is a form of Artemisia down here. And in all likelihood, this space right here will be where one of the villages is. And the villages will extend out from the rug or in from the rug, depending on what ultimately surrounds them, i.e. the raised beds or other kind of outdoor decor furnishings. Let's take a moment to appreciate that beautiful, beautiful brickwork. Now over here, I've got a fall planting. This is one that I've showed you before that I've pinched on, I've taken cuttings from, and it's really bushing out and getting much more full with color, great color intensity, and I can just already see some gourds, some pumpkins being nestled in there in this shallow pot. And then over here, some of those cuttings that you saw me take next week, I finally potted up. And you can tell that they've just recently been planted because they're complaining a little bit. They're drooping a little bit, but they'll take hold. And in here, I've put not only coleus clippings, but also some basil cuttings that I took. This Wayward Tutor with a climbing tomato on it needs to be straightened, but there are tomatoes on it. So I'll wait for them to ripen, and then I think I will really do some pruning and trimming on this tomato, give it a good feed, and I think it will then respond with more productivity than it's had during these very, very hot months. Because here's our weather forecast. It's supposed to be in the hundreds, not today, but tomorrow and the next 3 days, and then a protracted period of 90s. So let's take a break here, and then I'll show you some other things. Well, Hubs is getting very, very impatient for that center table to be relocated so he can put in a metal fire pit here, and we can have a small fire out here this fall. And again, I'm still the ultimate configuration of the furnishing of the plant stands. I'm not really sure. I do like this kind of tall element over here in the corner. This is a table I've had forever. I believe it was from Pottery Barn a million years ago. I'm not sure. And it has been pressed into service for many occasions. I remember a fall dinner party where it was just filled with pumpkins and lights and candles, and also at Christmas time where it was filled with poinsettia and wrapped packages. It's just a really good all-around piece of furniture. I can unscrew the top layer and just use the bottom if I want to use it just as a table. The glass has gotten scratched and obviously is filthy right now, but nevertheless, once it's cleaned up and it is staged, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece. Then over here, I have yet to get the rain barrel hooked up. You can see I still haven't found the ultimate destination for my hanging sparkler. You can see right there from my dear friend Jan. Need to put it someplace where it can capture the light. But then in front of this gas meter, I will plant something fairly large and fairly soft, and so that it's not too prickly for when they need to read the meter. I'm not exactly sure what that's going to be. What I'd really like to plant there is a huge boxwood ball, because this is in the exact same location that I had a boxwood ball at my other house. And there were two. There was a huge one and a smaller one next to it. And it was one of the my favorite things at my house. I just loved the way it looked. Now, whether or not I have enough room in here, I'm not sure. But I'm still playing. And also it will cover up where there's been some, you can see where they did some pointing on the brick on the garage. Now the garage isn't, I don't think, as large as some of you maybe from how it looks on camera. I'm not really sure. Some of your recommendations have been great, but they're just not practical for the amount of surface area there is. And a lot of you have asked if I'm still satisfied with my decision not to have a greenhouse, and very much so. Now I'm thinking on these Blue Point junipers that I've showed you before, I'm wondering if I want to, like this one, if I want to limb it up and remove some of these lower branches so it really does look kind of like a Christmas tree standing in the forest. I'm not sure on that, but I show you these all the time because I'm just so proud of them, because they were just little babies in my other garden. And I planted another one that is more rounded, has more of a rounded form like this one. I've planted it in the front bed, and it might be transplanted back here to be a contributor to the, let's call it not evergreen village, but evergray mounded villages that I hope to have surrounding the patio. I'm also looking at some pancake arborvitae from Southern Living. Oh my goodness, they're so beautiful. I just love them. And in the past, I've only been able to grow them in pots. Look at how pretty the light looks coming through the trees. It's just a gorgeous morning. And I will try to give you, I'll probably put it in the community tab in a newsletter, what color this is for the lattice work and the fence. I'm not exactly sure. It's a blue-gray. And increasingly, I'm thinking on this other side that has been very neglected. And this is where the craftsmen, Javier and Sergio, are working now because they have to cut the brick. And I'm thinking what I might do over here is a mirrored version of this platform, this large throw rug over here. And I might do a mirrored form of that on the other side. And that might be where the grill lives. It'll be covered and cleaned up. Where the grill lives, maybe where my composter lives, I haven't decided yet. And this area will really be beautified because we will build a latticework surround for the air conditioner and to hide those utility boxes. And there'll be some evergreens planted around it. And then there definitely will be things planted along the edge that will soften this whole area, which looks like a holy mess right now. Obviously, that little mound of dirt will be removed. This will all be leveled out. Those Nandinas will be repositioned. All of the trashy stuff that's here, covered in clay dust right now. This will all be cleaned up. And once it's cleaned up and it's level, then I will make my final decision on exactly what I want to do with this space, because it's difficult for me right now to fully envision the scope of it, the size of it, because these things have been mounded here since we moved in. I do like having a couple of vertical components. These are those gorgeous Encore topiaries. And by the way, it's topiary month, you guys, so make sure on Instagram to post a picture and tag me and I'll repost it. Then I have to find a place for Annabelle. But the light is pretty this morning. And I'm so anxious to get this finished, as are you, because you're probably sick of me talking about it. So this is it for the backyard. The front yard walkabout will probably need to wait until a little bit later. I need to get inside and get dressed. But as always, give me your thoughts. Remember people suffering in Hawaii, and we've got links below on how you can donate. Our hearts go out to all of you who are suffering right now. And here's my commercial. If you haven't subscribed, if you would, please do so. Give us a thumbs up. More importantly, share this wonderful community in this little world we've created with others who might enjoy it. And I will be back in the front yard later today. And now to the front, where we have some new residents. So when I moved the other furniture to the back, I needed chairs for up front. And ideally, what I would have liked would have been 2 more of these rustic, very English teak chairs. But I looked everywhere and could not find them online or in stores. They were Smith & Hawken from many, many years ago. But I did find these. I think they're really good looking. I like the way the diamond pattern on the back echoes the diamond pattern in the windows. And they have cushions. Ideally, I might have had a different color of cushion, but this is what they came with. And they will match the gray umbrella. And more importantly, Hubs has dubbed them comfortable. So I'm going to go with that. And there are 4 of them. And then I have an idea for these other 2 chairs. And that will be expressed later. But for right now, I am pleased with the way these look. I think they're going to be quite handsome and very befitting of the cottage and an English garden. So it's been cool. We got a little bit of rain last week. It's been cool. So things look considerably less stressed than they did. I will start pulling out more, I think, of the annuals and things as I am starting to plan for my fall display, and also filling in some gaps where the annuals have been growing and where I might want more evergreens for winter interest. So here is my question of the day for you guys. Do you like the chairs? Do you think, let me back up again. Do you like the chairs here? Do you think that they will look good on the patio? And do you think that in some ways they look better than the other black chairs that were here before? And I really like the way they are stained, and I did not stain them, and they almost perfectly match the finish on the house and on the window box. So that's my question of the day. But then I want to show you something else. So I've been missing some of the plants at the other house that I had limbed up and I was able to grow things underneath. Now, this is a candidate right here. I got this at Bustani. I need to look up the exact name. I believe it's in the mallow family, and I will look for the exact name of it. But if you look in the interior, and let me see if I can do this. If you look in the interior, you can see it's got really strong, pretty thick branching. And I think could be beautiful limbed up. Now it also has very, very sweet little yellow flowers that kind of close up and then open up throughout the course of the day. So something I'll be looking at to see if this is a candidate is, number one, how tall does it get? And how wide does it get? Because I have forgotten its ultimate mature size and scale, and it may need to be relocated, but wherever it ends up, it definitely looks to me like it could be a candidate for limbing up and underplanting. Now over here, if you look to the back, I am absolutely obsessed with those apricot colored zinnias. So I'm definitely going to be saving some of that seed because I just love that color. I think it's very, very sophisticated. It looks it's kind of a Sedona clay color, and it looks very, I think, sophisticated and beautiful as a late summer, autumn contributor to the garden. The Indigo Frost agapanthus are still going strong, and yes, I think it might be the answer to growing agapanthus in Oklahoma. So as I'm thinking about the backyard and my evergray mounds, and also, as I've mentioned before, the need to really thin out this candy butterfly, I overplanted here. I've never grown them before, wasn't sure just exactly how well they would perform, and they have performed just gangbusters. So probably some of just the white ones that tend to be a little bit smaller in scale, and I will keep them low. But I think as mounds with evergreen structure next to them, like these, like a boxwood, I think those really could make a contribution to my little evergray villages in the back, as might some of the Dusty Miller. I'm still not sure about all of that, but I've got time. It's going to get very, very hot again. I'm not going to be wanting to be overly aggressive about planting anything. What I'm doing now is just some dedicated deadheading, because a lot of this buddleia has performed just miraculously. But with these high temperatures, it requires lots of deadheading, or in some cases, I'm even just going to shear it back. That large round boxwood ball that you see in the pot here underneath the redbud tree, it is going to be planted in the ground because it's definitely getting too large for that pot. I'll put something else in the container, and it will probably be planted over here on the east side. Now here's something I meant to show you. You can look at my sunscreen sitting out there. I haven't put it away yet. But see the projectiles coming out of this topiary? I'm probably going to trim those off, but if I wanted a third ball, it is one of those types of long branches that I would then keep and transform it into a third ball. But I don't think so, but that would be an opportunity. So if you are wanting to grow a 1 ball into a 2 ball, or a 2 ball into a 3 ball, that is how you would do it. I kind of let the Joseph's coat and some other things thug out the pentas in the window box. I need to go put up my blind. By the way, someone had suggested, wouldn't it be better to have, a black blind there? It wouldn't be so obtrusive or so in your face when the blind is down. But number one, those are not inexpensive, and I'll probably leave the one that's there. And also, I just need to remember to put it up after I take my shower. But Hubs is in there right now, and he probably doesn't want to treat you. to a full-blown display. Here's another question for you as I contemplate my first dinner party outside in the outdoor living room. Oh look, there's the school bus in the outdoor living room, and that is, I really want it to be thematic based on, it won't happen until in September, so things that we associate with September. So if there was one fruit or vegetable that you guys really associate with September, tell me what it would be, and maybe we'll incorporate it into the menu somehow. Oh, something else that I'm very, very happy about is, oh, and by the way, I have not been getting out my little mower, not because mostly just because it's been too hot for me to do an additional mowing in between the regular power mowing that is done on Thursdays. So you may recall that I got that little reel mower so that I could reel in between, but it's really been so hot that to get the grass really established and healthy, I am willing to let it go shaggy in between cuts. So I haven't been out here with my little mower. Ooh, look how pretty the light looks right there. And once again, I kind of diverted my attention from what I was talking about earlier, and that is, so many of you were right about the Gara and it's blooming later. So now it looks like after its first flush, this Gara is going to really come into full bloom. And can I just say what a brilliant companion it is to that orange rocket barberry? I think it is just a wonderful, wonderful contrast. And actually some of this Gara, if I wanted something blooming in my mounded village, even though these have lots of vertical branching, nevertheless, it grows in kind of that mounded form, and it would also, I think, look beautiful in the village. I'll be cutting a lot of the coxcombs soon, probably for some kind of craft. You can see some of it has the vertical head, and then some of it has that distinctive rooster comb, coxcomb look. Oh, and another follow-up on the aphids. So I did a little bit of research. I shared the article on Instagram, but I read a research study by some folks at Purdue University, and they said that those are specialized aphids, which is why I only see them on the milkweed. And probably the best thing is just to leave them alone, because even if I tried to use something organic like just a strong spray of water, or even neem, which I would not do, I'm not going to do either of those things because I don't want to dislodge any potential caterpillars that are on there. And I think they just leave each other be. So I'm going to leave it be, and it's one of those instances where no intervention is the best option. Everything is so much happier now that it's not so hot. So I definitely have that lavender, pink, purple, very English palette going. I'm letting some things go to seed. Look at how pretty the morning light looks. And the salvia is putting out what looks to be its maybe fourth blush of blooms. I've kept it very deadheaded. I have to say that in terms of maintenance, this garden, granted I don't have the back completed yet, but this garden is so much easier to maintain than my other garden, even with the weeding and such, because I number one, I realized how wonderful it is not to be in a position where I'm constantly having to wrestle and wrangle and tame all of the things that were growing up around me that didn't belong to me. So the Virginia creeper and the wisteria and trumpet vine, I'm not tackling that as I did at the other house. I was constantly in a battle, wrestling with those very, very overly aggressive, rampant growers. And those are one of the things that some of the things that I mentioned in a video of don't plant these things, because they simply, I think, are just in the right place, yes, but in the wrong place. They are overly aggressive, very thuggish, and can even do structural damage to fences and the outside of your house. Can you hear the kids in the background biking to school? Oh, that makes me so happy. And so very, very fallish. So as they bike to school, I'm going to bring this to a close so that I can work my way to Norman, Oklahoma. You guys have a great day.